Back in October, we reported on 3 Metropolitan Police constables who were set to face trial for assault by beating. The IOPC said at the time that it investigated following a complaint about officers who stopped a bus in Tooting in London and removed a youth from the vehicle. Sergeant Dave Mattock, 36, Acting Sergeant Callum Ferguson, 26, and PC Jack Beadle, 26, from the Forces South West Command Unit, appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court charged with assault by beating contrary to Section 39 of the Criminal Justice Act 1988. Appearing at Westminster Magistrates Court in October, they each denied the charge and were bailed ahead of their trial. Well, their trial has now begun and finished. In the early hours of April 2nd, 2022, then 17-year-old Gabriel Silvera was punched in the dick and sprayed in the face with incapacitance spray. Sergeant Ferguson told the court he saw 2 people walk past his vehicle, one wearing a balaclava, the other with their hood up. He said the pair met 2 friends at a bus stop and boarded a bus within seconds, arousing his suspicions he might be observing a robbery team. So meeting your friends at a bus stop and getting on a bus that's just turned up is now suspicious? What the fuck? The court heard that the officers noticed a disturbance at the back of the top deck of the same bus, so they stopped it and escorted the 4 young people off. Both sides accepted that 3 of the young people were compliant, but the court saw footage of Silvera running away before he was caught, taken to the ground by Sergeant Ferguson. Whilst on the floor, the court heard that Mr. Silvera was holding Sergeant Ferguson's jumper and ripped it, while the officer punched him in the dick 3 times and in the abdomen area. District Judge Tan Ikram said the officers were on patrol in an unmarked police car in plain clothes, responding to the threat of knife crime and violence on the streets of London on the night of the incident. Gabriel Silvera said that he had felt targeted by the police and claimed they had me in some George Floyd position. Now, for avoidance of doubt, Gabriel Silvera was a black lad, hence why he probably claims George Floyd treatment, and is the only reason I'm mentioning his skin colour, by the way. Sergeant Ferguson told the court he feared immediate violence, of course, during the struggle and for his colleagues' safety, adding, "I still at this stage believe he may have been in possession of a weapon." And while there is an epidemic of violent knife crime, I haven't seen anything or heard anything from this case that would give rise to immediate reasonable suspicion that anyone there was in possession of a knife. Sergeant Mattock helped restrain and handcuff Silvera while PC Beadle sprayed him with parva before he was put into the police van. Silvera was eventually arrested for assaulting an emergency worker, namely Sergeant Ferguson, but then he claimed he had been assaulted during the arrest. District Judge Tan Ikram said proactive policing means watching out for suspicious behaviour when things might not have happened yet. Yes, Mr. Ikram, but policing is also following the rules and having a reasonable belief that something's going to happen or has happened before going hands-on with somebody. Judge Ikram then said that Sergeant Ferguson is a much bigger man than Mr. Silvera, and throughout his dealing I think it can be reasonably said that he was heavy-handed. But in my judgment, heavy-handed is not the same as being persuaded that heavy force was used. There is a spectrum of force which still remains within the parameters of lawful, and I am not persuaded that taking him to the fence and, in fact, seeing Mr. Ferguson's response to being goaded at that stage doesn't suggest to me he lost control or was angry. Far from it. He remained restrained in the face of provocation from Mr. Silvera. Throughout his interactions, Mr. Ferguson, in my judgment, has not been proven to have used unlawful force, and therefore I also find him not guilty. Now, all 3 men, now former PC Jack Beadle, Sergeant Dave Mattock and Acting Sergeant Callum Ferguson, were all cleared of assaults due to unlawful force not being proven. Not that it didn't happen, just that it wasn't proven, and as we know in a court of law, the decision must be based on reasonable doubt, and seeing as the beating did take place, then it was only the fact that reasonable doubt must have been introduced somewhere. Now, I'm not for a moment saying that some people don't deserve being sprayed in the face with parva spray and punched in the dick. Personally, I wouldn't want that, so every time I've had issues with the police, I've never resisted. It's far better to be able to recover from a few bruises than broken bones or death, so I don't advocate fighting them, unless you really have to. But in an arrest situation, it's almost always going to end badly for the person fighting back, even if they can make and are successful in a claim at a later stage. But people have been paralysed and killed by police because they were non-compliant, which is a very, very bad end result for anyone. I do think wearing a balaclava is a bit odd, but not illegal, and not suggesting that a person has a knife on them, nor is having a hood up. Personally, I think this was 3 bored cops who wanted something to do and ended up being dragged through the court system as a result. I also think that when you fight back, you do have a lesser chance of winning an assault against you charge. I think the camera is the biggest weapon that anyone can use to protect themselves from the police, not fists. So if you have done nothing wrong, simply get your camera out or get someone else to record the incident so you have proof of any unlawful excessive force used against you.